Hi, everyone. Meteorologist Joe Cioffi here. It's Sunday morning, almost 10 a.m. Eastern time. We are coming up to 15Z Greenwich time, actually 14Z Greenwich time, which is 10 o'clock. 15Z is 11 o'clock Eastern. Now I'm getting all wrapped up in clock stuff. Okay, let's move on. You know what time it is where you are, where you're watching. We have, of course, the latest on Hurricane Ophelia, which is now racing to the northeast at about 35 miles an hour with top winds of 105 miles an hour. It's beginning the process of becoming a post-tropical or extratropical storm, but nonetheless, that really is more the meteorological technical designation, which is not something that we should be focusing on. The bottom line is that this is going to be a very powerful cyclone when it moves over Ireland on Monday between 6 a.m. and noon Ireland time. This is when I would expect to see sustained winds of 50 knots or higher right along the immediate south coast of Ireland. And I am pretty confident that there are going to be some gusts to hurricane force during this event along and to the east of the low track, which we'll get into in the weather video portion of this in just a second. As far as rain is concerned, there is not going to be a lot of rain along and east of the track, which means that in England there will be very little in terms of rain out of this. Wind will be the issue east of the track. The rain issue will be along and northwest of the track. So in northwestern Ireland and in northern Scotland, you are likely to see some heavy rains out of this on the order of 20 millimeters of rain or more, and in some cases maybe 40 millimeters of rain or more in some of the higher terrain in Scotland. With respect to the wind on the western side of the track will be less. There's also going to be the component of motion to consider when it's moving at 40 miles an hour. So you have a sustained wind of 50 miles an hour and it's moving at 40. If you're east of the center, you're going to see those gusts to 70, 80, 90 knots. I would not be at all surprised. So we're going to start rolling with the weather video portion here. And this will get into some of the technical aspects of what is going on, and then we'll come back. If you've have questions, by all means, put them up in the live chat. I see some of you are there already, so let's stand by, and we'll get to the weather part right now, and we'll come back at the end for a little more conversation. Once again, I want to welcome all of you watching from Ireland, England, and Scotland. The UK are going to get impacted by Hurricane Ophelia, which you can see here on the satellite loop from today. The hurricane is undergoing a process of transforming itself into a post-tropical or extratropical storm. What that means is it'll start to look more like a winter-type cyclone than a tropical one, but it is still going to be quite powerful. If you look at the geography here, Portugal is to the east, the Azores are just to the west, and you'll notice that Ophelia is really racing along very rapidly at about 35 miles an hour. So landfall on the south coast of Ireland is going to happen during Monday morning Ireland time. As Ophelia will bring, I believe, wind gusts in excess of hurricane force along and east of the low track. There will not be all that much rain along east of the low track, on the order of maybe an inch or less. North and west of the track of the surface system, we are going to see perhaps 2, 3, or 4 inches of rain, and I think that'll be confined mainly to the northwestern quarter of Ireland and for Scotland. For much of England, there's not going to be that much rain at all. There will be some wind to deal with, but Ireland is going to be bearing the brunt of all this. Now, here's the wider satellite view, so you can get a look at how this, the perspective with respect to the entire Atlantic and with Western Europe Ophelia is lifting up rapidly northeastward, and notice the change in the structure since 12 hours ago. It goes from a rather circular, symmetric tropical system to this sort of elongated, stretched out mass that is east of Portugal. Now, that is, again, part of that process of becoming post-tropical, where it's going to take more of a comma shape on the satellite images. You'll see it will still be. It still is going to produce some rough weather, no question about it. This is going to be quite powerful as it moves on through. Now, here we're going to look at the overnight weather models. First, we'll start with the GFS model, which is the North American model. And here is the wind field for Ophelia at midnight tonight, Ireland time. And the purple area is sustained winds of 50 knots or higher. What happens is, as these systems become post-tropical, the wind field tends to spread out. It increases in geography, although the area of very, very strong winds tends to lessen. Here's the look at 6 a.m. Monday, and here is what happens at noon when landfall is expected to occur. So you have along all of the south coast of Ireland, in that purple area, the GFS forecasting 50 knots, sustained winds or higher. Gusts are going to be in excess of hurricane force. I really have no doubt of that, particularly because of the fact that this thing is moving at such a rapid rate. You have to also take into account forward speed, moving at about 35 or maybe by that time even 40 or 45 miles an hour. If you have a sustained wind of 50 on the east side of the low, you could add that component of motion, and you could easily see gusts up to 75, 85, even 90 miles an hour. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a few odd gusts at that of that number. The center tracks just inland of the coast, so the eastern part of Ireland gets the bulk of the wind. The western part, the northwestern part in particular, will get more of the rain. The gales will extend to the west shores of England, but there won't be much rain there, and also to the western shores of Scotland. And the low center is forecast to move right over northern Scotland and then turn east-northeastward over into Norway and Sweden. This is not too different from a track from the historical storm that stands out is Hurricane Debbie back in 1961. And oddly enough, 61 holds the record for 7 major hurricanes in that year. We're at 6 so far, so we would need one more major in order to get to 7. That's one of those odd coincidences that occur. I'm going to show you the Canadian model here in terms of the wind field for Ophelia. Same idea. You get that comma-shaped look to it. The Canadian has the low center just maybe a shade further to the west. By not that many miles. I don't think it'll be enough to make really that much of a difference in terms of what the outcome is going to be, but it still has the same idea. The worst of the weather for Ireland will be Monday morning into Monday afternoon. I would suspect the peak winds will be occurring from 6 a.m. Ireland time to at least 2 or 3 p.m. So the good bulk of the dayside tomorrow in Ireland is going to be extremely windy. Rainfall. When we take a look at the total rainfall amounts, starting with the Canadian model, again with the track, you'll see how the rain lines up with all this. You can certainly just pick out where the track of this by just following where the heaviest rain is. And it's like this. This is going to be the track of the low center itself. So you go south and east, the rainfall amounts are generally under 15 millimeters. You go north and west of that, you're talking 20, 30, 40 millimeters of rain possible in about 24 hours time. So there's your Canadian rainfall, the Canadian model rainfall, the GFS model. The European is also very close to this. Unfortunately, I can't show you the preset maps from the European. It's just one of those things. You got to buy a very expensive license in order to do that. But here's the GFS rainfall Same idea here. You can see where the track is going to be really pretty much right along that the southern area of the blue would be the track of Ophelia as it moves northeastward over Ireland and into northern Scotland. The GFS actually produces a small area of very heavy rains of 50 millimeters or more for northwestern Scotland, so that could produce some localized flooding problems there. Why don't we take a look at the upper air here, and we'll show you why this is happening the way it is. And here's the representation of the upper feature of Ophelia, this trough that's swinging up from south to south to north, and just gets oriented east in an east-west fashion. This is lifting the storm toward the British Isles, and you also have this big upper high that's building over Europe. Very, very strong upper high, much like the upper high that's built over the eastern part of the United States. So this is creating very warm conditions over Europe, but with that upper high, the atmospheric response is to create a deep trough out in the eastern Atlantic, and that is the reason why Ophelia is lifting the way it is. If we take a wider view of this, you'll see it just a bit better. I'll take the North Atlantic shot. You can kind of see Europe there on the edge, but here's the setup in the jet stream pattern, where you have a trough that extends down from Greenland into the central Atlantic. Here's your representation of Ophelia, and you see where Ireland is. And over the course of 2 days, that trough just lifts it up and around, and it's just the ideal setup, although a rare one, in that we're seeing Ophelia coming up the way it is from the south rather than coming in from the west. Okay, folks, so I'm just going to put a stop to this right here for the moment, so just stand by, and we will come back to you in the chat. If you have any questions, by all means, post them up on the chat, and we'll get right to them. So hang on. Okay, so we're back. So you see what's happening here. The models have been very consistent with regards to Ophelia for the last 3 or 4 days. I mean, once they kind of zeroed in on Ireland as the target, it really hasn't changed very much. And now that we're inside 24 hours of landfall, we don't expect it to change very much at all. Again, weather conditions will begin to deteriorate along the south coast of Ireland, probably during the early morning hours, with the strongest winds occurring from, let's say, I guess give it a broad range, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with that peak time right around noon time, Ireland time, Dublin time. We are then going to see this track right over the island, leaning a track toward the western part of the island, comes up offshore, and then eventually makes its way into northern Scotland. As far as the weather in England is concerned, not that much rain, a little bit of wind, but probably somewhat manageable, I think, except maybe it'll get pretty gusty on the western shore versus the eastern shore. Then for Scotland, some heavy rains in the northwestern side, some strong gusty winds, but it's really Ireland, I think, that's going to get take the brunt of all this as it moves on through. She Gadget, is the jet stream further south than normal this year over Europe, and hence a conveyor belt of storms from into the UK? Well, not really. You have a big upper high that's built over in Western Europe right now, and in response to whenever you have a very big, strong high pushing the jet stream in one part of the world further north, it pushes the jet stream in another part further south. So what you have is a big upper high in the east, and that deep jet stream out in the Atlantic Ocean. And it just happens that right now the flow along the Northeast Atlantic is running north to south. So you have a deep trough from Greenland southward into the Atlantic, and that's creating a strong south-southwest flow up the west coast, the western coast of Europe. So that is what is lifting Ophelia up in this sort of a track. Okay, but over Europe itself, you have a big upper high that's supporting this. So it's just kind of like everything is lined up in the, let's call it, the wrong spots in order, which is causing this storm to move the way it is. Good morning to John Riley, who just joined us, and good morning to everyone else that has come on board either early or late. Leon Erie, red alert here in Ireland. I know they have red flags up. I think your warning system's kind of a bit different than how, well, I mean, the message is the same. The red flag, I assume, means a storm warning is in effect for storm force winds. And that certainly is justifiable in lieu of the situation. Sarah Magadub, I hope I've said that correctly. You're in Dublin. Welcome to the YouTube channel this morning. We have been, of course, following Ophelia for the last several days, and now we're watching it as it gets closer to landfall. One of the things that we've seen on the satellite, by the way, is the fact that Ophelia is beginning this transition, David Schwartz, into a post-tropical or extratropical cyclone. But try and remember that, you know, these are meteorological, technical meteorological definitions that we go by. In terms of the practical weather that you are going to experience, you're going to see a powerful storm move on through. So just think of how your winter storms behave. Now, the only difference is that this is coming up from the south as opposed to coming in from the west. So that kind of changes things a little bit, especially for areas that are east of the low center. You're kind of used to them going maybe across, and you get more of a west wind. This is going to be a wind that's going to come up from the southeast for most of Ireland, and then gradually going to the southwest and west. So it's going to be a bit of a different experience to a large degree. Very unusual to see a hurricane or try any kind of tropical system come up from this direction. Not unheard of, but a bit unusual. Sarah, I don't know what the orange alert means. I'm not very familiar with the alert system that is in the UK. Red alert, I am told, Leon Erie, thank you so much. A red alert means potential life loss in areas of Ireland from Cork to Galway. Thank you for clarifying that. So I'm guessing that an orange alert will be one step below this. Delvin, where does Ophelia go after Ireland and Scotland NHC track doesn't show? By then, it's going to be long post-tropical and gone. The Hurricane Center is, I'm not sure how long they're going to write advisories. I assume they're going to write advisories for this for information purposes, certainly, right up through the track through Ireland. But you know, when you see on their forecasts putting latitude and longitude, I think it was something like 60. Let me quote it specifically, because you just don't see it this often, if at all. You know, on the right now, as of 5 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, we're at 39 and 18.3 west. 18.3 west. Okay, you don't get that many advisories that are written with longitudes like that, but it eventually, by 72 hours, it's at 60, almost 61 north and 0.1 west. So right on the zero line. I don't know that I've ever seen that. Maybe if I think back to 2005 when Vince went into Spain, that's probably the last time that I can remember that. And I think they'll just they'll probably write advisories right up through at least the time of landfall. So at least we'll have an idea of what they're thinking. Dublin is in a red zone, Caitlin. So I think your biggest issue, I want to just give me 1 second here. I've got to pull up a map of Ireland so I know what I'm talking about. And okay, so Dublin is on the east coast, as I see, and you're going to get wind. There is going to be your biggest issue. Rain is not going to be a big issue for you. You're going to wind up with wind. I'm sure you're going to see gusts every bit of 50 or 60 knots or even higher. Areas that are really going to have going to be problematic because of the landfall. Places like Dingle, Kilcarney, Cork, Kinsdale, Waterford, and Wexford. Those lie all along the south coast of Ireland. With respect to rain, the issues for rain may be problematic in Northern Ireland in places like Castlebar, Ballina, Sligo or Sligo. I'm thinking it's Sligo, Letterkenny, Londonderry, in those areas up in the northern part of Ireland. So Limerick, Ireland, for example, probably lies very close to where the track. I think the low center could track from over Kilcarney to Limerick, from there to Enniskillen, to somewhere between, say, Letterkenny and Coleraine. Okay, so if you kind of draw a line there, it really just pretty much cuts across the island. Cuts across the island with the track lying across the western half of Ireland. I never thought I'd ever have to do something like this, where this is the first time where I've ever had to focus with this. Okay, Sean is telling me I should Google Ireland weather warning system. Thank you very much. That'll help me as well. So let me do that right now. Ireland weather warning system. Okay, from the Met, I don't know, Irian, I think that's how you pronounce it, has put the country on high weather alerts for severe winds and stormy conditions as the tail end of Hurricane Ophelia is set to whip Ireland. I'm not sure if I would refer to it as the tail end. Status red wind warning is in place for the west coast, while the rest of the country is placed on the second highest level. This is orange alert. So that's as of a year ago. Okay, I can see where the explanation is. Okay, so status orange means level weather warnings for weather conditions which has the capacity to impact significantly on people in the affected areas. The issue implies that all recipients should prepare themselves in an appropriate way for the anticipated conditions. So it means be prepared. So I guess that's the equivalent of a watch. The warning, red warning should be a comparatively rare event. It implies the recipients take action to protect themselves and their property. This could involve moving families out of the danger zone temporarily by staying indoors or other specific actions. Okay, folks, you can Google it if you need to know what the meaning is. A lot of this stuff is always written in governmentese and not always the easiest to figure out. Will coastal flooding, Leon Probitsky, in Western Ireland? You know what? I know they have mentioned the probability of some storm surge issues. I don't know the geography that well to comment on that. So for those of you who are watching from there, you might want to at least consult your local government officials with regards to what impacts may occur along coastal areas. That's the place to go. Just like we refer to the Hurricane Center and National Weather Service. So you should refer to your own weather service as well. And yes, Delvin, Ophelia is well east of the Azores now, racing away toward Ireland. The explanations are pretty unnecessarily wordy. Yeah, Sean, it's a little bit ridiculous. It's like, can we get to the point, please? Governmentese is exactly what it is. But this is the nature of bureaucracy. Ricky Walker, Ophelia is now about less than 900 miles south of the south coast of Ireland. and moving at about 30 to 40 miles an hour. So you're talking about a landfall in less than 24 hours from now. It's actually it was 900 miles as of the advisory, so it's probably more on the order of 750 miles south of the south coast of Ireland as of 10 a.m. Atlantic Eastern time, Eastern U.S. time. Okay, so look, folks, that's pretty much covers it, I think. I hope I got to everybody's questions here. If you are watching from the UK, again, from Ireland specifically, check with your local government officials if you have any questions about what you need to do in terms of protecting yourself with regards to the approach of Ophelia. Let's hope that this winds up being far less than forecast. We don't want these things to happen. So if you're seeing me for the first time, you can tell I have a very, very calm approach through all of this, for all of this stuff. And you should have a very calm, logical approach to it, and you'll be okay. Just take whatever necessary precautions are suggested by your local officials there. And if it turns out that not much happens, great, good for you. That would be awesome. If something if there are problems, you should be able to deal with it in a very direct and logical manner. Okay, so we'll update you again this evening with where everything is. If you have any other questions, to save them for tonight's live stream. I'll be more than happy to answer any and all of your questions going forward. Have a great Sunday, folks. We will, if you miss part of this live stream, it goes up in the video library on the YouTube channel, so you can watch it again later on, and you can check out more on my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Cioffi, and also my website, meteorologistjoecioffi.com, where I have some more information on Ophelia. Have a great day. We'll see you later.